My video for May the 3rd, 2019 is video number 3074. The title is Jimmy Carter, U.S. is most warlike nation in history. This article came to me from Information Clearinghouse. During his regular Sunday school lesson at Maranatha Baptist Church in his hometown of Plains, Georgia, Jimmy Carter revealed that he had recently spoken with President Donald Trump about China. Carter, 94, said Trump was worried about China's growing economy and expressed concern that China is getting ahead of us. Carter, who normalized diplomatic relations between Washington and Beijing in 1979, said he told Trump that much of China's success was due to its peaceful foreign policy. Since 1979, do you know how many times China has been at war with anybody? Carter asked. None. And we have stayed at war. Carter then said the U.S. has been at peace for only 16 of its 242 years as a nation. Counting wars, military attacks, and military occupations, there have actually been only 5 years of peace in U.S. history. 1976, the last year of the Gerald Ford administration, and 1977 to 80, the entirety of Carter's presidency. Carter then referred to the U.S. as the most warlike nation in the history of the world, a result, he said, of U.S. forcing other countries to adopt our American principles. I could not agree with Jimmy Carter more that we fight wars for economic means because the international bankers profit from war no matter who wins and who loses. And so it's really a money game. It's not which nationality, which race, or what is responsible. It's the international bankers that are responsible because for them, war is a racket, as Medley Butler said. Anyway, I'm going on to read more from the article about Jimmy Carter that was posted again, as I said, originally posted on Common Dreams, but I got it on Information Clearinghouse. Reading again from the article itself, China's peace dividend has allowed and enhanced its economic growth, Carter said. How many miles of high-speed railroad do we have in this country? He asked. China has around 18,000 miles, 29,000 kilometers of high-speed rail lines, while the United States has wasted, I think, $3 trillion on military spending. According to a November 28 study by Brown University's Watson Institute on International and Public Affairs, the U.S. has spent $5.9 trillion waging war in Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and other nations since 2001. It's more than you can imagine, Carter said of U.S. war spending. China has not wasted a single penny on war, and that's why they're ahead of us in almost every way. Continuing, and I think the difference is if you take $3 trillion and put it in American infrastructure, you'd probably have about $2 trillion left over, Carter told his congregation. We'd have high-speed railroad. We'd have bridges that aren't collapsing. We'd have roads that are maintained properly. Our education system would be as good as that of, say, South Korea or Hong Kong. While there is a prevalent belief in the United States that the country almost always wages war for noble purposes and in defense of freedom, global public opinion and facts paint a very different picture. Most countries surveyed in a 2013 WIN Gallup poll identified the United States as the greatest threat to world peace, and a 2017 Pew Research poll found that a record number of people in 30 surveyed nations viewed U.S. power and influence as a major threat. The U.S. also invaded and bombed dozens of countries and supported nearly every single right-wing dictatorship in the world since the end of World War II. It has overthrown or attempted to overthrow dozens of foreign governments since 1949 and has actively sought to crush nearly every single people's liberation movement over the same period. It has also meddled in scores of elections in countries that are allies and adversaries alike. Wow. I still think that Jimmy Carter, and I've often said that he was the best ex-president in US history. When I read this article and hear what Jimmy is saying, I wish he had gotten 2 terms in office, and I wish his wisdom was still being applied in US politics. But of course, the international bankers' money game does not support peace. It supports war. They don't make money on making peace with people. They make money on getting people on both sides to buy weapons and destroy things, and then they have to borrow more money to rebuild what's been destroyed. I mean, it's total insanity. War is a racket, like Smedley Butler said, and it's a racket that the United States has been involved in virtually throughout our entire history. He points out the exceptions there, but to me, I look back and the nation was founded on a revolutionary war, and then there was a so-called civil war where states decided that they wanted to operate differently than the government in Washington. And so there was a big civil war in which more Americans were killed than any other war in our history, so-called Americans, and they were of different races, different religions, and we all spoke, I guess, the same language at that time because we didn't have segments of the population where English was not the primary language. I mean, people that came to America had to learn English. Well, that's no longer the case. America, the United States, is no longer an homogenous nation. It's a very divided nation within its own borders. That's a serious problem, folks. But the whole world is divided because of the war machine of the international bankers. We've got to get over the superstructure of money being something that creates war and creates profit for individuals that do not have an agenda for peace. They have an agenda only for money and control. For them, money is control. They're the same thing. And so I applaud Jimmy Carter for the courage in speaking out, and for Information Clearinghouse and Common Dreams for publishing this information, because it's very, very important for us to know that there are other alternatives. Donald Trump does not have to compete by waging war everywhere on the planet. And they're building up the war machine again, even under Trump's presidency. And part of that problem is his alliance with Israel, which has always been at war as in its short history as a nation. So, folks, we need to wake up. And again, when I say Israel, there are Israelis that are very much against how other Israelis are treating Palestinians, for example. We've got to stop this inhumanity of people against each other. We've got to learn to think in terms of peace, not in terms of war. Think in terms of prosperity, and not think in terms of impoverishing a lower class of people. I got an article or a picture of a lady with 3 children on a bicycle carrying firewood, I guess, on her back with a big pot of something, I don't know, balanced on top of her head, riding a bicycle. You know, talk about hardworking people. This is probably an impoverished lady. And look at the agility that she has just to stay on the bike with 3 kids, 3 children, plus all of the other stuff. Folks, we need to wake up. We need to look at things with different eyes, and we need to open our hearts and learn how to love one another. And we need to open our minds and learn how to tell the truth. Thank you for listening, and namaste.